Good morning, Yasha Allah. Good morning, world. Um, we interrupt the program to have the Most High Yahweh speak to you, to all the world, because of this important feature that he has commanded that we should bring forth for a point of understanding and confirmation of his word. So right at the moment, I'm not certain as to when he's going to allow the interview to happen. But in any case, we must do as he commands us. And I bring to you this morning, bringing to you this subject headlined by the scripture, Isaiah 45:11. That's our opening text. It reads, "Thus saith Yahweh, the set apart one of Yasha Allah and his maker. Ask me of things to come concerning my sons and concerning the work of my hands, command ye me." All right, so we have this great passage of scripture where we get to see, as it were, into the heart of the Most High. With regards to having an understanding of his care for his creation, and in particular, his care for kingdom order according to his Torah. Wherefore, he has separated the sons of Adam and called forth our father Abraham to have the privilege and honor of ruling over the whole earth through the seed that was be born to Abraham out of the son Jacob. In response to the fact that Esau, to whom birthright was offered at the beginning, he said he wanted nothing to do with it. It was of no use to him. It's recorded in the scriptures in Bereshith. All right, so that's a short part of our introduction. But the real matter that we are concerned with today, this morning, is the secret to separation. And along the path of getting to understand this separation business, of course, those of us that know the scripture to a certain degree understand that from the very beginning of the formation of the 12 tribes, The Most High order was to separate or be separate from the nations, be a set apart people unto him, that by his orders, Yasha'Allah would lead the nations in getting the knowledge of him, of who the Most High is, and to be able to also understand his Torah. It was Yasha'Allah's prerogative to teach the nations the Torah. But we find that along the way that Yasha'Allah had difficulty keeping itself separated or separate from the nations in order to have the strength of orderliness that would project it or help Yasha'Allah in promoting its mandate to rule over the nations. And we find then in the matter of the sealing of the 12 tribes, one of the important aims of the sealing is to secure the very point of order that I mentioned to you concerning what the Most High spoke to Yasha'Allah to be separated from the nations. And so the sealing, this sealing time that we are in, is bringing about the separation that the Most High required from the beginning. I want to say then also that the main reason of disturbing or prevention against the separation that the Most High has required of Yasha'Allah is, in particular, when it comes down to the nation having been formed and moving towards obedience to the Torah, we will find with a careful study of the scriptures that it has been the determination of Edom, who wanted no part of the birthright under the offering of it to him by the Most High. And therefore, he sought another measure of obtaining the blessings and the right to own what the birthright demanded for the citizens born to sustain or to help nurture the principal offering of the birthright that was Mashiach. And so Esau's rejection of the birthright, that offering to him was squashed, put down. Therefore, it was no big thing. It was not something out of character with the Most High that he should put Edom aside, because Edom didn't want to honor the requirements that would make the birthright available according to the will of the Most High. And I might add, as we're going along, that the primary way, one of the primary ways, of course, of Edom fighting against this order of the Most High for Yasha'Allah to be separate unto himself was Edom's constant drive to mix himself, mix his seed in Yasha'Allah. You check the history and you will find that there's this constant drive of Edom to mix himself amongst Yasha'Allah. He come and he throw the smallpox and all the diseases among the so-called Indians and wipe them out, but he still got to come and find wherever Yasha'Allah go, he goes and mix himself in to decimate the 12 tribes. Instead of keeping his distance, since he had proclaims himself a master of ceremonies, he proclaims himself wise and having superhuman abilities, and proclaiming his ability to have no need of the 12 tribes. Yet he would not stay away. He kept coming. He has kept on coming and mixing himself in to dilute, if possible, the set apart seed from himself. He kept trying to pollute the seed. And in the interim, he wound up calling himself the seed. Imagine that. He called himself the seed of the Most High. I mean, the principal hater, next to Satan himself, hating the chosen of the Most High, which he could have been, he and his seed could have been. But he rejected. He didn't want it. He wanted what Gadriel, the fallen one, offered him, and has endeavored to place Gadriel as the Most High. Let's put it simple like that. His mission become the promotion of Gadriel, the Most High, and therefore obtaining of the birthright for him would be a mission of conquest by destruction and any manner of destroying the seed that was on the path or in the pathway of the birthright blessing according to the Most High. I only wanted to add that note for strengthening the idea of separation, because it has been, by all historical accounts, the mission of Esau to not allow Yasha'Allah to be separated from him. Continually, he has continuously striven to blur the lines, and now he puts it to his scientific experimentations and bloodline and the gamut of scientifics that he has involved himself with, and trying to distinguish who the righteous seed is. Whereas if he would leave us alone, that would be entirely a matter of no concern. We won't have to be concerned about it at all. But he purposely has kept on insinuating himself into our midst and into the tribes, wiping them out by his diseases and whatever means. Of course, with the guns and so forth, wiping out the tribes, while he keeps on, pushing himself in to tell us how great he is, how wonderful he is, how wonderful the masterful Edom is. And there's no one like the Edomite. This has been his ploy through history. I give you that for clarity of understanding why we've had this problem with separation from Edom. Yes, we have played our part, Yasha Allah, but we have come to the, what we may call the nitty-gritty, understanding of the kernel of inability to separate was in Edom, who understood fully after the crucifixion that he was not able to carry on life without, but let me put it simply, he was unable to carry out life without the Most High, as his claim was, that his power, Satan, was the power that would give him life and give him the birthright and, set him up to be the ruler over the earth. He found it wasn't so. Therefore, he ingratiated himself into the 12 tribes. And so much so that he claimed that the Mashiach of the 12 tribes was a white man. This preposterous lie that Edom has sent to crucifixion, put together an all-out campaign to make the Messiah an Edomite. This is the reason. I strayed off a bit, but I wanted to kind of cement that understanding in your minds, Yasha Allah, and to the world. Our concern is with the request of the Most High, who asks, or who demands, ask of me, and I will show you. I will tell you who my sons are and what it is about them that is special. That's in the request of this verse that we're reading. In any case, having learned, having been able to figure out how the Grecians, under the direction of Philip of Macedonia, and his son Alexander, Edomites, led the drive in becoming ship masters, of people that traded in ships and that kind of thing. And through the shipping industry, they devised a plan Satan gave to them to carry or to take the house of Yahweh. Well, the tribes in general, because you know that the tribes of South America had to or were forced into interaction with Esau, because Esau came by ships to make contact with them and to do his work of destroying them, like he has done with the house of Judah, the house of Yahweh. When he brought them by the ships out of the coast, of the east, brought them to the west for his enslavement purposes. That's important to know. And in giving you this offering, we want to look at the fact that we have now come to the sealing time where the distinction between who are the chosen of the Most High is not left to Esau's DNA and whatever have you, what you call it, the experimentation. It goes on and try to decide who's who and all of that stuff would not be necessary if Yasha'Allah was allowed to separate as commanded by the Most High. But Esau understood this. Therefore, he kept sticking close to the tribes and working his work of destruction to muddy the lines, And we were all complicit in this matter. From the time of our great king, Solomon loved many women, strange women, and Edomites. So this thing started a long time ago. But now, in this sealing time at the end, the Most High has taken upon himself, the Mashiach, to do the separation himself. And so all of Esau's scientific declarations of race and who is who and who belongs to who, the sealing has come to take care of all of that. It's under the purview of the Mashiach, the head of all principalities and powers. It's the reason for the sealing, to secure the people of the Most High as the people he has chosen. And Esau's intermixing, that was his ploy, his chief ploy, to intermix and to try water down, muddy the lines of distinction between the 12 tribes and himself and the other nations of the earth. Again, having been allowed to disclose the fact of how 12 tribes were brought into captivity by ships, as we look at for instance, the processes involved or utilized by so-called home security of Edom, America. We look at their measures of home security provisions, the constant snapping of the cameras, even to the intrusion of our person in moving about by plane or boat or whatever have you. There's this constant interfering with our person for identification. I want to tell you what is the reason behind their their need and their invasion of our privacy by demanding that they look at our eyes and get a copy of our eye prints and so forth. They were looking for the imprint of the Baphomet in us. They have developed their technique, their photographic techniques, and their infrared and whatever have you capabilities to look for the image of Satan in you. This is the mandate behind home security. We're looking for the image of Satan in you and not finding that image. Oh, you know, it fuels their wrath and hatred against you, as it has always been there. But the cameras being set up to scan into your inner being, being unable to find or to see in the redeemed, to see the image of the Baphomet, Satan, in us, has been one of their ways or their means of identifying the Redeemer, the Most High, and to make or to set up measures of entrapment and destruction against us. This is the work of Homeland Security. And so we want to look at the way all of this came together. According to the Zohar, and what's that thing they call what's the other word that goes along with the Zohar? The word's getting away from me at the moment. But what was taught to Edom when he went into Mizraim, into Egypt? What was taught to him by the science of Mizraim, according to the Sephirothal tree, is where or how Esau, Edom, acquired the knowledge that he espouses to you in his programming concerning the Kabbalah and the Zohar. They take their cue. They have taken their cue from Amun-Ra, Sephirothal tree, whose science, the science of the way the Sephirothal tree was set up, Edom has been unable to penetrate it and to be able to build it as it appears in the tomb of Amun-Ra. But having learned intellectually the meaning of the Sephirothal tree to the point of where the knowledge of how and why Mizraim, the Egyptians, enslaved the 12 tribes in their land, even after the 12 tribes were so instrumental under the hand of our brother Yosef, that saved Mizraim from annihilation and destruction by poverty, yet they put forth their hand to destroy the tribes because of the understanding that these people belong to the Most High Yahweh. These were different people who, even although they were generous in their knowledge and in their abilities to give life to Mitzrayim, because of their allegiance to Satan, they raised up from their midst the sleeping giant of Gabriel, who was the oracle, or I would put it this way, the main person of the oracle of the Amun-Ra Sephirothal tree, to whom they could resort or come to receive answers of questions and direction in the way they would conduct themselves as a nation and as one nation to another, and especially as a nation devoted to the worship of Gabriel, Satan, and all those that fell with him, those that were given to be in that part of the kingdom order of Satan, that were inhabiting or living upon the face of the earth, as opposed to those who live directly in the Shamayim, in the heavens, among the constellations, and in the sea. These upon the earth were concerned with the formation of kingdoms, nationhood, and humanity, or of humanity, who had become subject to Satan in the fall of Bereshith. And so we see from the revelations of the Zohar the understanding of the strategy of Mizraim in how they brought the 12 tribes to a point where the pharaohs sought with all his might to make Yashala extinct in Mizraim by their magic and all the matters pertaining to the magic and the horoscope and astronomy and all these sciences. Of course, astrology and astronomy, when incorporated with the dwellers of the kingdom of Satan in the Shamayim, from where you get all these horoscope readings and so forth. These matters were committed offered to Alexander's generals that went into Mizraim way back to learn the strategy of enslavement of the 12 tribes, so that Edom, as prophesied in scripture, could bring them into bondage by ships and work the works of Satan according to sorcery, magic, and witchcraft, all that with which Edom, Mizraim, Egypt, was familiar. Because as a nation, they were committed. That part of humanity that was and is Mizraim, that people were committed to the worship and the works of Satan. And they wanted to force that upon the people that the Most High had chosen out of the earth. Out of all the peoples of the earth, he chose this people that he would groom and wash away the stain of Adam's transgression and make them his own. And this is where the fight was. And this is why the Pharaoh was adamant about getting rid of the people that saved his people from famine and destruction. But that wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to exercise the will, the wrath of Satan against the chosen of the Most High to get rid of the birthright offering that was the Mashiach, son that was born in Yasha'Allah to be king, whom Herod and Pilate, Edomites, set up their traps to find the birthright blessing in Jacob, in the 12 tribes, to destroy it and to prevent the salvation of the world. Because we understand that there will be some Gentiles in the kingdom. Well, let me touch it just slightly. We think of characters like Cyrus, Koresh, I think is another rendering of his name. We think of Nebuchadnezzar himself, who was humbled by the Most High. And after his humbling, there was no more blasphemy coming out of Nebuchadnezzar. And I would see him as a member of the Gentile gathering unto the Most High, and so on. And leave it right there. But with the sealing now, we're talking about, we see from the Zohar and the Kabbalah, the methodology that was taught to them by Mizraim, by the Egyptians, the methodology that taught them to corrupt all righteousness and bring in the oracle of the Sephiroth tree, whose knowledge and the image of its knowledge that Esau learned when Alexander's 4 generals made their trek into Mizraim, and from which knowledge they set up the enslavement of the 12 tribes, which is the establishment of the protocol Esau used to advance and secure the enslavement of the 12 tribes, both in the South Americas and in the North Americas. It was the knowledge of Amun-Ra's wisdom of the Sephiroth tree in the breaking out of, the how the oracles describe cosmogony, and so on and so forth, all there in the Sephiroth tree. But all the doings, the workings of the principles described by the Sephiroth tree were performed, brought into being by the oracle of the Sephiroth tree, and Satan himself, or maybe one of his chief helpers. What do you call it? The demons. This is the wisdom of the Sephiroth tree that the Egyptian Mizraim resorted to for knowledge and how to conduct their lives according to Satan. This was Esau copied, and they made their way under the Ptolemies. They made their way into Mitzrayim, to Egypt, learn the art of enslavement. Therefore, they came out and implemented it, and you could read about it, the methods of enslavement. And you find, you can go and study it now, when I'm finished, you will find that the most basic element in achieving the subjugation of an individual or a nation under the demands of the Sephiroth tree and the knowledge of the Zohar, which they got from Mitzrayim and the Sephiroth tree of Mitzrayim. Torture and destruction was a prime component. Yes, torture, destruction by any means necessary to acquire submission from a human being, in particular, tribes of the house of Yasha'Allah. These, the tribes of Yasha'Allah, were the target of Satan for this destruction, and Mitzrayim, and by transference, Esau, using the methodology of Mitzrayim, learned from the oracle of the Sephiroth tree. The oracle being Gadriel, Satan himself, that Mitzrayim worshipped. So it was no big deal for Edom to follow that course and choose the knowledge that are put forth in the Zohar, and the Kabbalah. This knowledge that they gained from Mitzrayim of how to conduct an enslavement proceeding. It's what they use to destroy the 12 tribes of Yasha'Allah. And so, as I was saying about the Homeland Security checks, having developed their scientific skills in photography and so forth, they invade our privacy in these home security checks, look into our eyes and the iris, and because they're looking for the signs of the Baphomet in you. Batakashatamandi. This is the secret behind it. But again, I want to show you the involvement of Haiti. Levi, the beloved, the beloved of the Most High, that gave the teaching of the Torah as a part owner of the praise and contribution of the French and Haitian Revolution. These were not, well, in the end, these were not separate revolutions as is put forward by lying history. The French and Haitian Revolution was a united front against the Most High, as Edom always is, always has been. So the coming together of himself, Esau and Levi, in the Catholic Jesuit-led agreement that was signed by the priesthood of Edom and Levi, was the creation of the enslavement processes that was designed to destroy the work of the Mashiach in his redemption plan for his people. This is why the book of Thessalonians shows you the fiery destruction of Levi, or that portion of Levi that will be under such destructive measures coming from the Mashiach himself. Therefore, when you contemplate of the death of the president of Haiti, Moise, I think is his name, if I got it wrong. I'm speaking about the president of Haiti that was recently assassinated. And you call to mind the serious act of violation against Torah that Levi, Haiti committed in the revolution, in the joint revolution of Haiti and France to secure revenue, to boost up their accumulation of wealth, to push their nation forward in their endeavor to continue enslavement of the 12 tribes and destroy them. Levi offered them his knowledge of the tithing system that they would use to decimate the economy of the enslaved ones, who were not really open to payment for labor in any case. Whatever small offering that was given to them or made available to them was by choice of the enslavers. But they were cut off from all economic achievement and advancement. And it was upon the advice of Levi to the French, in view of the downturn in their economy, them, France that is, and Levi, the Haitians, constructed the idea of enslavement of the 12 tribes to trade souls across the world, particularly in the Caribbean, with respect to the creation of the New World from the ports of entry in the Bahamas, where I live, as so-called Benjamin, who became the target of destruction under the watch guard of Haiti directly. But of course, they all were involved with it because this was a historical gift to them, to the French and the Haitians. This historical gift that was dropped to them from the halls of the Zohar and the Kabbalah that were that that is the work of the Sephirothal trade of Amun-Ra, coupled with the knowledge of the priesthood that Levi possessed and that he turned his back on. Not the knowledge, but the priesthood itself. Of course, with the turning away from the Most High, who gave the knowledge, whose knowledge that to the degree they had possession of this knowledge from the station or the directors of the priesthood, they would pervert that knowledge and use their authority to drive particularly the house of Yahweh, the house of Judah, that was the last of the tribes to be conquered by Edom for Satan. They would use the tithing system that was in the possession of the priesthood. And in the revolution that is called the Revolution for Haitian Independence, which there was no revolution for Haitian independence. That is the lie of history. Because the revolution, as it is called, was a combined effort of French and, well, let me back up a little bit, of the French, the Catholic Church of France, their priesthood that is called the Jesuits, and the priesthood of the Levites, who had become defunct according to the Torah, and their ministry to the Mashiach in the priesthood. They deserted that on the behalf of giving assistance to the French by using the tithing system to be a means of generating revenue to stave off the poverty of France. So liberty equality, fraternity, the watchword of the French Revolution, was undertaken. The idea and the need of France. Levi went over and offered, inasmuch as Levi was a captive in the 12 tribes formation, he was a captive of France, the French, Esau. But showing himself a worthy companion in the exercise of bringing forth the crucifixion of the Mashiach that Levi participated in and was eager to offer up the Mashiach unto Pilate and Herod, Edomites, the Levites. You check the scriptures in the books that are called the Four Gospels, and you see the working of the Levites that spilled over and into the Haitian Revolution, so-called. That was not the Haitian Revolution. It was a joint effort by both of them, instruments of Satan. For the Haitians had become a part of the Catholic Church priesthood. And in the knowledge of their former priesthood under the Most High, they offered themselves to the French to assist in the matter of economic need. They went over to the French and told them how they would assist them by enslaving the house of Yahweh. French didn't do this on their own necessarily. They had their friend that assisted them in the crucifixion of the Mashiach. This is how they got the support, and gives history the lie of these two separate revolutions that became combined and spearheaded by the Haitian Revolution that was under the direction of the French and Gabriel, Satan, the leader,
Go tell Grammy.
the one who masterminded it all. So now when you look at the treachery of Levi against the Most High, against the Mashiach, and his aid of the French Revolution by signing to give aid to France by enslaving the house of Yahweh for profit. On the behalf of Edom. This was the matter at hand. This is how the revolution was formed, and it was not a separate French Revolution and a Haitian Revolution. They were a combined effort to use enslavement of the House of Yahweh to generate revenue. And the way Levi devised that he could raise this revenue was by the tithing system that was promoted in the churches. Yakatakaba. Yatakaba dadamya. Now we can see the part that Levi played. They talk about being owed so much by the French. And this was a joint effort between friends. Levi and Esau in the French Revolution conspiring together against the Most High to leave the order of priesthood before their time, their tenure was up, to give aid, help to the French, the children of Satan, by conducting an enslavement exercise with their ships provided by Esau, the Grecians. And in the transshipment of the tribes, their wealth grew. And I mean, IT received some compensation, but of course you see that the Haitians are unsatisfied with the compensation that France has given them or offered to them. So this is the talk in history now of the French betrayal of the pact that was made between them for the enslavement of the House of Yahweh to generate money to help alleviate the poverty of France. Levi sold out the house to destroy the work of the Most High and the Mashiach to secure salvation. This is what Levi offered himself to secure. So when we look at the death of the president of Haiti that just now happened, looking at vindication on behalf of the Most High and the Mashiach. It ain't over yet. But the treachery of Levi and offering to enslave Yahweh for the benefit of the easement of French. Of French poverty. This is what Levi has done. You know, helping a friend ain't a bad idea. But boy, to destroy the edifice for securing of salvation for the world, this is what you participated in? And now, your president has been slain beside other matters of breach of security that has happened and that are happening, you look to the people who are your people indeed. You look to them for assistance when you made such a treaty, such a deal with Satan to destroy these people wholesale. In the 400 years enslavement exercise, you, Levi, made this deal. You did it and brought it to pass handsomely. And your departure, the departure of the Levites from their duty to the priesthood to assist the Mashiach, getting into the Shamayim, to the place, the most set apart in Shamayim. Their violent departure from the priesthood in the same so-called Haitian Revolution for Independence. This was their departure from the priesthood order, wherein they would assist the Mashiach to enter into the most set apart place to do confession for the sins of the world and directly on the behalf of the house of Yahweh, who was the leader of the 12 tribes. This was the work of Levi. In the revolutions, not revolution, was a joint effort. They split the deal between them. I mean, it was indeed the French Revolution that was the precursor, that started the whole thing. But Levi gave his hand. He went over to them and invited himself into the conversation of the detriment to their economy. And Levi offered the house of Judah to France and Satan for destruction by the slave trade exercises. What can we say now concerning the slaying of their president? Isn't this a measure of vindication from the Most High and the Mashiach? And it's only going to intensify? Because the track that they started on to subdue the house of Jehoiada to slavery, perpetual slavery. Now they've gotten so used to the idea of rebelling against the Torah of the Most High, rebelling against the priesthood order that was for them to secure Mashiach's entrance into the Most High, the most set apart of the sanctuary, to conduct the ministry of intercession as high priest. Their plan to destroy that which was cemented by their violent departure from the priesthood in what is called the Haitian Revolution. Their dashing down of the office of the priesthood to not be available to assist the Mashiach going into the most set apart place, to ask for forgiveness, to plead forgiveness on the behalf of those who have accepted the provision that the Most High made for the absolution of the crime of our sin, the sin of our first father, with our mother being the precursor, leading the way of giving in to Satan's request to have dominion over the earth, to make the whole earth his slave, to the annoyance of the Most High, Yahweh. This is the part IT has played and the part that it has continued to play, and to lie to history that they were securing the, maybe I could use the word, rites of passage of the Caribbean and the Americas. They want to secure rites of passage for freedom, as they would put it, freedom from the tyranny of the European, of Esau. When they have agreed to set up the whole show of enslavement, the great lie told to history, that history should repeat it, that there was a Haitian and a French Revolution to secure freedom. What was the freedom? Enslavement of the house of Yahweh and of the 12 tribes in total. Enslavement under Esau for the sake of the exaltation of Satan. So what solace can we offer unto the Most High for this high disregard of Levi, for his office of priesthood that he dashed to the ground, so that he not be available in the time appointed? That was last year. In Yom Kippur, it was his time to assist the Mashiach, for getting into the most set-apart place, to do the service of the confession of sins as high priest. This is what the Haitian Revolution was all about, destroying the work of the Mashiach and the end of the world. What consolation can we offer to IT in the slaying of its president, who was a son of Satan, to destroy the work of the Most High? What consolation can we offer to those who would be angry against me and against all those who take exception to this cry for help to IT? You got to consider yourself. The hand of the Most High is at work, repaying. As he said, he will repay his enemy to their face. This is what he's doing with IT. And it's marvelous in my eyes, the damage they have done to the house of Yahweh, the damage that they have done to me personally for almost 70 years, being under their witchcraft and sorcery, trying to force me to accept the position of an anti-Messiah agent against the Most High. Can you imagine that? I have no desire for it. I never desired it, nor had any inclination to desire it, to enter into any kind of negotiations, political or otherwise, to discuss it. But yes, this force from Levi to force me, destroy me, to make me an agent of the anti-Messiah core, that he, as the priest, the deposed priest of the Most High, he's the one who accepted it on the behalf of Satan. He loved Satan so much. Levi, I'm talking, loved Satan so much that he would accept the anti-messiahship to enslave and destroy the worship of the house of Yahweh unto the Most High, hence unto the Mashiach, who has been granted all authority and power in the Shemahim and the earth and over the inhabitants of the sea. When you look in the commandments, the 10 commandments, you see it. You see how the kingdoms, Godriel has been set up in a triangle. The heavens, Shemahim, the seas, and the earth. Or you can mix it any way you want. And so, the sealing has come to secure the redeemed of the Most High and Master, our Master, King Yahushua, Yahushua. And we praise the Most High for this understanding today. In the name of our Master, who has redeemed us by his blood. Separation has always been the key that Esau is always opposed, put forward all his scientific experiments and explanation of genes and who belongs where and all that. His effort to remain entrenched in a close relationship with Yasha'Allah as he destroyed them with his diseases and his ability to scatter them and create communities, different parts of the earth, as he will, as Satan would have it. These are the issues that we have been facing. And the sealing has come to secure these matters of concern. He asked us to do it, Yasha'Allah, long years ago. And we had trouble doing it because of the imposition of Esau with the help of Levi. So we thank the Most High for making clear the understanding of what is going on in our midst, Yasha'Allah. Separation. That's the number one. I think it's a 4-part matter to bring the whole thing to conclusion. This is how I think I was shown it. And maybe I get to express what is in the other offerings. But this primary separation is a key element in the sealing, the 12 tribes. And those of the nations who would be sealed after. Thank you for your time and your patience in listening. May the Most High bless Yasha'Allah, cause his face to shine upon us. Be gracious unto us as we are on our way to disclosing the number to be sealed. May the Most High bless you. So let it be. Yeah, who's there? Oh, again.
Hi, Grandpa.
Hey, Fred, look at my boy.